Okay, welcome back to the Carl Jackson Show, guys. All right, so John R. Lott Jr. I mean, obviously, you guys probably know him from for more guns, less crime. I mean, he just blew up, and he's a great he's a great statistician. He's a great. You're aren't you an economist by training, John? Am I wrong?
Yeah, I have a PhD in economics. Been an
Okay, so
academic most of my life.
all right. I mean, honestly, his wealth of knowledge is just insane. And so the funny thing was before during the break between the last two segments that we shot, I don't even realize that, or don't know if John realized that we weren't recording at the time because I simply remembered that John, I was going to talk about the Save America Act, but without a guest. And then I remembered that John had written a piece that I had read. It's been a while. I can't remember all of the details about mail in ballots, I believe. And so I asked him about this, and he just went off on this long spiel. So I just asked John, can you stick around for another segment? Because he knows this stuff in and out. Guys, it is my opinion. And honestly, I know that this is an uphill battle, but I believe that it's a battle that the Republicans need to fight. I think that we need the Save America Act. Listen. I know we have to pass a 60 vote threshold. We have 53 to 47 as far as Republican senators versus Democrats. Not all Republican senators are on board. I'm leaning towards the talking filibuster and pressuring Democrats because if we don't have election integrity, what do we have? John, I am you were mentioning when we were offline just the types of election integrity that other nations have. And normally I don't like to compare the United States to other nations, but in this sense, I think we should because it's a shame that we don't have the type of election integrity inside of the United States that's just common sense, especially in places like California and some of these blue cities that are just insane.
Yeah, the United States is very unique in terms of not having protections for voter integrity. I don't think most people appreciate it. You look at Europe, for example, there are 47 countries in Europe. 46 and a half of them require government issued photo IDs to be able to go and vote. Um, you look at Europe, 38 of the countries in Europe ban absentee ballots for people who live in the country. Another eight allow it, but they require that you have to go in person and uh, and show a government issued photo ID to be able to go and pick up the absentee ballot. And six of those eight countries limit it to people who are in the hospital or in the military at the time. And they just don't take your word for it that you're not going to be available. You have to have third party verification. So, you know, and we're not even talking about mail-in ballots where they automatically send out a ballot to people. These are absentee ballots where you have to go and request it. Um, you look at Canada and Mexico, both require government issued photo IDs to be able to vote. Mexico bans absentee ballots. You look at South America, all the countries in South America require government issued photo IDs to be able to go and vote. All the countries in Africa require government issued photo IDs for people to be able to go and vote. You look around the world, the United States is the real outlier in terms of not having protections. And the thing is, some of these countries used to have rules similar to what we have in the United States, but they discovered uh, massive fraud that was occurring that caused them to change. France until 1975 had absentee ballot rules similar to what we have in the United States, but they discovered on the island of Corsica, simply by accident, simply because some people got a guilty conscience, that literally hundreds of thousands of votes were either being made up or purchased. Because when you have an
Wow.
absentee ballot, you can go and show somebody how you're going to vote. The thing is, people don't even understand the history of voting in the United States. Um, we used to have massive vote fraud problems in the United States. Um, we didn't have secret ballots up until 1880. Kentucky was the first state to have secret ballots in 1880. The last state to have secret ballots was South Carolina in 1950. And what would happen is there'd be a ballot box up in the front of the room, and you drop in a colored piece of paper based on what party you were going to be voting for. And what would happen is that the representatives of the parties would stand on either side of the ballot box and
Mhm.
observe how you voted. And then they would pay people based on how they voted. And that was the main reason we moved to secret ballots, to prevent vote buying that was occurring. And when states switched to secret ballots, you had all these different states in different years switching. There was about a 10 percentage point drop in voter turnout that occurred right when you went to a secret ballot. Because basically, what happened is some people who were no longer getting paid decide, it's not worth it to go and vote. And what they don't realize at the time is that states across the United States banned absentee ballots because they were worried that, and also ballot harvesting. And the reason was is because if you have an absentee ballot, you could get the same vote buying. You could show somebody how you had voted, and then if you gave it to them, they could make sure that it was turned in. It's just over time, people forget why we had these rules to begin with, and and we loosen the rules. And so
I,
now we have a number of states that go and have these mail-in ballots where they just send out in mass. I lived in Nevada briefly in 2020, and I lived in an apartment building where I got mail-in ballots from like the four previous residents
oh,
that had
wow.
lived in
Wow.
the apartment. And if you went through the mailroom, what you would find is literally, I don't know, whether there's 100 or more absentee ballots just on the floor, because
You
people
got to
would
be
be getting
kidding
all
me.
these absentee ballots that weren't from them, and they would just throw them on the floor. So I could have, or somebody else could have picked up all those ballots and voted them. And who would catch the person that would do that?
I- You know what's so frustrating about this? And I want you to play cut 31 here shortly, Gabe, if you hear me, cut number 31. But what's so frustrating about this isn't a Democrat or Republican. Let's say you hate Trump. That's fine. I'm a Trump supporter. That's fine. Let's say you hate Trump. Don't you want to make sure that the elections are fair across the board, regardless of who you're voting for? It only makes sense to me. And most people believe what I believe. Let's play cut number 31, please, Gabe.
What's the racial breakdown on this, right? Because I think a lot of people make the argument that people of color, non-white Americans, have a harder time procuring a photo ID to vote. But even here, take a look here. Favorite photo ID to vote. 85% of white people favor it. 82% of Latino. 76% of black Americans favor it. So the bottom line is this. Voter ID is not controversial in this country. A photo ID to vote is not controversial in this country. It is not controversial by party, and it is not controversial by race. The vast majority of Americans agree with Nicki Minaj that, in fact, you should have a photo ID to be able to vote.
And obviously, that's the polls haven't changed much on that. That was a few weeks ago. And then there's a video. We won't play it for the sake of time. But Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, I don't even know when he works, admits that gerrymandering is a response to the Save Act that would require photo ID. So the only reason you wouldn't want photo ID to vote is so that you can cheat. Is there another reason, John R. Lott Jr., that you can think of that the left wouldn't want photo ID to vote?
Well, I mean, they claim that it prevents people from voting. I guess the only thing I would say is all the states that require government issued photo ID provide free ID. It doesn't even cost you anything. And if you
That's a
can't
good point.
even make it out,
Man.
you can't even make it to the place to apply, these states will send somebody to your residence to go and make sure that you have the ID. But, I'm not sure how most people can survive without IDs. They can't have a bank account, they can't get welfare payments, they can't get Social Security, they can't get anything basically. They can't fly on planes, they can't get drugs from the pharmacy, they can't, I don't know how you function without having some form of government issued ID with you.
You know what's amazing, John? You just triggered something in my head. I'm trying to see if I can find it, but there was a Democrat, a state senator, uh, basically making the case. I'm trying to see where what state this was in. Right now, I'm scrolling through my phone and I don't see it. But anyway, he was making the case in one of these blue states that illegals should be able to get rental assistance, whether or not they have ID, whether or not they can prove that they're non-citizens. So their goal seems to be to buy the votes of illegals, keep them on the dole, keep them on welfare, so that they will keep coming back and voting for the Democrat Party. We have 30 seconds. Your take.
Right. I mean, one of the bizarre things is the Democrats want a promise from the Trump administration before they'll fund Department of Homeland Security that ICE agents will not be allowed to be at voting precincts
That's right.
during the election. And I don't know what's the goal from not having ICE agents there. So who knows? But it's just um, uh, it's it's overwhelming, even among Democrats, among by race or whatever, that people think you ought to have government issued IDs. And the interesting thing to me is that the lower income, less
Right.
educated people are even more in favor of it than the
Yeah.
people who have like graduate school education, which,
Well,
you know,
we have to
you know,
leave it there, but I mean, you're absolutely right. We need to pass the Save America Act. It's as simple as that. It's insane.
I'm
It's
not sure
insane.
about getting rid of the filibuster, but I understand. So anyway,
Yeah, honestly,
thanks.
I'm not a fan. We're offline now, but I'm not a fan of getting rid of the filibuster. But I don't even think you need to. I just think Republicans
Well, have the talking filibuster. That could go on for months. Are you there?
Yeah, yeah, no,
Yeah.
I
And
agree.
and you wouldn't get any judges confirmed or anything else that would be happening during that period of time.
Oh,
So and people would just hear the Democrats going and making their false claims about this stuff over and over and over again. Republicans wouldn't be able to talk. So I'm not really sure. You know, you know, you get given that all the Democrats basically support this, I'm not sure that you're going to be successful in wearing them down on it.
the
They'll
only
just take
thing
turns speaking.
the only thing that gave me a little bit of and I'm with you there, but I listened to Mike Lee yesterday and he made a couple of points that I didn't realize. For one, John Thune could choose which amendments come to the floor that they could filibuster. So if it's something that was advantageous for Republicans to go out and speak out on the cameras about as well, John Thune could control that process. He also made another point, and I don't know. Times could be different, so you're probably right. I don't necessarily want to see the filibuster go, but at the same token, he made the point that when it came to the Civil Rights Act, and I forget another very important piece of legislation, it did take several months, but eventually Democrats were worn down where they voted in the numbers
Well, I think
that were needed.
yeah, I mean, look, I mean, I think the Civil Rights Act was very different. I mean, one, I think the general media was behind, the Civil Rights Act. I'm not sure you're going to be able to get people educated. I mean, you have shows such as yours out there, but unfortunately, a lot of the mainstream media, I don't think, is going to educate people correctly on this
Yeah,
type of issue.
that's fair.
And who knows? I mean, look, if you can get through, I'm happy. I'd be great. I'd be thrilled. But I don't, I don't want to get rid of the filibuster, even though the Democrats may be very likely to do it, just because if we didn't have the filibuster during the Biden administration, they would have packed the Supreme Court. They would have
Yeah,
gone and given statehood to Puerto Rico and DC. They would have banned photo IDs across the country.
yeah.
So you got to
No,
be careful.
I agree. I don't disagree. I just feel like this is so crucial. I almost wonder if having the
I
election
agree.
integrity solves the problem. It's a hard one. It's a hard one for me here.
I agree.
But anyway,
All
John, I
right.
appreciate you taking the time, man. Really appreciate your work as always.
No, I appreciate you being there, Carl. It's always great talking to you. All
All
right.
right,
Take
you
care.
take care. You have a
Thanks.
good night. All right, so you guys got to hear John Lott beyond beyond our normal conversation. So I hope you enjoyed that. For some of you that are still tuning in and maybe watching live, just a reminder to please subscribe to the podcast wherever you go to get your podcast: Apple, Google, Spotify, YouTube, and Rumble. Please check out John Lott's work, crimeresearch.org. crimeresearch.org. And frankly, I mean, the guy is just brilliant when it comes to numbers, and the fact that he remembers so much of this data off the top of his head is just, I mean, it's just amazing. It's just amazing. So I hope that you enjoyed that.